Hello, it's me, and I've pulled out this Trajber's Octahedron to try my alternative approach to solving 4x4s, or 4x4 mods, and that's the parity-free solve of this particular puzzle. I'm going to be using this as reference because one of the biggest problems with applying the techniques of the parity-free 4x4 solve is perspective. Otherwise, it's a fairly simple puzzle. Now, the reason why I'm using this is it's not unlike the Canecube. But I'm going to do this a slightly different way than that. What I'm actually going to do is somebody had a difficult time. They wanted to solve it face by 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 face and had issues up until the last one. Well, this is really exactly the same thing as a parity-free solve. And the problem with this puzzle, just like the Canecube, is it's kind of hard to really explain exactly what you're doing. I mean, yeah, it's just a typical 4x4 mod, but it's among the more difficult ones because first off, the edges, when you do edge reduction, it's kind of hard to keep track of all of them. The centers, you sort of have to concentrate on that. Well, the good news is that with a parity-free solve of this, none of that comes into play. So you're going to find that this is a much easier solve. So what translates out into a 4x4 reduction to a 2x2, which is what the parity-free solve is, a 4x4 reduction to a 2x2 by putting separate 2x2 blocks in, really translates into a face-by-face solve of this puzzle over here. Now, be warned, the technique is really the same, and actually doing mods of this sort is easier than doing a 4x4. The biggest problem is perspective. Bear in mind you have a corner here and a corner here. These are corners. Now we've got an edge over here, center over here, edge over here, and then a center over here and an edge over here. So if you can keep that in mind, it'll actually make the solve of this a lot better. And the good news is a mod like this has the most difficult kinds of parities because you have centers. These are centers, centers, and centers. They've got centers that share a common piece here, and because of that, you know that because there's equivalency of center pieces, you can potentially get a 90-degree rotational parity that won't come out until you try to do the last edges. Well, this is going to do away with all of that. So we're going to go ahead and scramble this and then solve it, and we'll use this as kind of a model to demonstrate how to do it. It's a much simpler solve that way. So, abracadabra. Okay, here it is. So I'm going to reference this because, like I say, the biggest problem here is going to be perspective. Now, as you recall with my parity-free solve, I just did the first two layers, and I did it the way I would do with a layer-by-layer solve, because then it made it easier to do 2x2 blocks. But this one, I'm not going to do it like that. I'm just going to do it face by face because that's actually the original request that I had. So, getting perspective, we've got the centers over here, just like we start off with centers over here. Now, the difference is it doesn't really matter how you start with them. It's probably going to be easier if you want to solve it in this way by getting centers that are all of different colors, which is really not much of a problem. Bang, there you have it. The layer-by-layer solve would be to put these centers in first, like this. Okay, I'm not going to go through the whole thing. You've got a tutorial that already goes through that. So when doing layer by layer, when doing the parity-free solve, the first thing that you want to do is put in this block. So I'm just going to put one block here, which is going to correlate with this over here. So to do that, first thing that you want to do is we have a center here, and we're going to do this based upon the centers. So what I like to do first is go ahead and put the edges in. These are these edges. Now if you were to correlate that, understand this move here is just like this move here. So I'm telling you, once you get yourself used to this, then the perspective will be okay. We'll actually even start off with a white over here. So white center here, I need to put in a white edge. That's what this is equivalent to. So the way that I would do that is I'd simply find a white edge, which could be really anything at this point. Now the reason why this puzzle is simpler is because this is two colors. This doesn't, this just is one color, so this mod is easier than a 4x4. But in any case, here's a white edge. What you're going to do is move it out of the way, bring this up, this slice up, the center up, move it in, and bring it down. And that's all there is to it. So now we're going to put in the next one, which will be white and red. So that's going to be this guy over here. So basically move it to the side from the top, bring this slice up, move it in, and move it down. That's how you're going to do it. Now to get the corner piece over here, just find the proper corner on this side. Now this should be pretty easy to visualize. It's this guy over here. Now we just do RIDIRDs until you get it in. turn, turn, turn. So here's your 1 by 2 by 2 bar. So let's apply that to this over here. So these are edges. These edges are going to be populated by edges up here, just like these edges were populated by up here. So this is the top layer over here. So too, this is where it's going to be populated by. Now now you're kind of skewed here. This is like the first layer over here. This whole thing with a corner over here. You've got a middle layer here, and you've got middle layers here with corners. So it's pretty difficult to conceive of. But basically, what you want to do is the white ones that belong here. Now, unlike this had whites of 2 different colors. And it mattered because the corner wasn't going to be like with any other color. So this is a very specific corner with very specific edges over here. Good news with this is you don't have that. It's just one color corner, one color edge. So what I'm going to do is move any one of these so that they're at this layer over here. So this white has to come down to here, and I'm just going to move it just like this. Now when I do that, I'm going to do the same thing I did here, which is move the slice up and then bring this down into it. So let's say I wanted to move it into here. Move it to the side, bring this up, move this whole slice in, and then bring it down. Now it's pretty intuitive. You don't need any algorithms, but there it is. Now with this edge, just like I did this edge next, I'm going to do the same thing over here. So let's just intuitively place this down where it needs to be, over here. And now same thing. I'm going to move this to the side, bring this up into this top layer over here, move this across, and bring that down. Bang. Now for the corners are going to be populated from here. So this is going to be RIDI, just like we did with this guy. So put this just below where it needs to be. This comes down, RIDI, RD. Now what I probably should have said is try to get your perspective. That if this is a bunch of centers, this is front, this is down, this is right, this is left, and this is up. So try to skew yourself with that. So this is basically it. This is my 1 by 2 by 2 bar, the same as this. So the next step, normally what I would do is I would just go all the way around with the first layer, but we're not going to do that this time. We're going to populate this. That's just like populating these, which is 1, 2, 3 more segments. So to here, 1, 2, 3, center, edge, center, center, edge, center. The way to do this is, what I'm going to do is put the edge in, well, it doesn't really matter. You can put the center in, followed by the edge, it doesn't really matter. But to put the edge in this case is going to be populated from up here, which is going to be blue and red. So blue and red, there's a blue and red over here. That's not the right one. Okay, here's the blue and red over here. And what you're going to do is you're going to put it to where this has to come down to here, and I'll do that number 1 algorithm that we said of moving edges down. UR, UI, RI, UI, FI, UF, and there it is over here. So that'll put that over there. The edge that you're going to put in on this one, there's just going to be the one edge over here, and that's going to come from here. So these edges came from here, and this edge comes from here with that same algorithm. What I'm looking for is I'm looking for the white one that comes over here that's up here. Do I have any here? If I don't, I got to put one. So here's one here. Got plenty of room to move this around. So now this is here. So this gets placed down here. And it's exactly the same algorithm. Here's the center, so this over here is going to be my front face. This is up, if I can turn it, this is up, and this is R. It's exactly the same algorithm, just keep your perspective. This is going to come down to here, so set it up to where it's here, or you can, well, this is going to be over here. It could be over here too, in which case you do the left-sided version. So that's going to be, once again, U, R, UI, RI. UI, FI, U, F. All right, so now that's in. So that's okay over here. Now the next part is the trickiest part just in terms of perspective. We got to move these centers in. These centers that are going to come into here have to be up here. So here's the move that's kind of like this. The center that's going to come here has to come from up here. Now this is already in. Now let's say it wasn't. right, so let's say it wasn't. So I'm looking for the blue one, which is over here. Match it to where it's going to come down to where it has to be. Now remember, we did this by way of placing different layers, but this is going to come down to here. So it's kind of like I'm doing the second layer. Instead of doing one layer, then the other entire one, I'm just going to do these portions of the second layer. Match this up to where it's supposed to be, place it so that you're kind of creating these two over here. Turn it to bump it out of the way in a different layer, and then bring it down. Now you just undo what you did. Bring it back and move this layer back up. Then bring it down to move this layer back up. And bring it back. So this is all fine here. Now the red one has to come from up here. If it's not up there, then I've got plenty of other ways of putting it in by other layers. Same thing here to here. Move it down so that you create this 1x2 bar. Move that 1x2 bar out of the way and move it down in a different layer. Now move this back to bring this layer back up, and then bring this over to here to bring the layer that you put down back up, and now bring it down. So you have your first 1x4 bar. So too with this, these centers are going to come from here. So you're gonna want to put the white one here, so just find any whites. Here's a white, I can just move this into here. Now place this just above where it's supposed to be. This will come down to here. So you're going to be moving these slices, just the center slices. So now you got to kind of pay attention to this, but this is going to come down to here. So you're creating this 1x2 bar, just like we did. Now turn this 1x2 bar away from where you just turned it, and now move it down again with this slice. So keep moving slices down. Okay? Once you've done that, you have to undo everything. So now move it back, bring this slice back up, and I'll bring it back this way to bring the last slice back up where you put this in. This comes back up, and I'll bring this in. So now this is fine. So now what we're going to do is put the white one here, another white one here. Now the good news is it's all the same color, which makes this all the easier. So we're going to have to get this up somehow. I can turn this here and here. Again, that's done intuitively. This is going to come down to here. So once again, move it down to create this little 1x2 bar here, which you're going to move out of the way, then move it down from this layer. Now move it back, bring it back up, turn it back here, and bring it back up. And you have your first 1x2 bar. So now we're going to go ahead and continue that until we go all the way around to create a bunch of 1x2 bars. And it's really the same kind of thing. Now, after showing it to you, what I may do is I may just do it in an algorithm form if that's the way your mind works. So over here, this yellow one is going to be the base. So these yellows are going to come from here. So I look around to see if I have yellow edges here, and if I don't, then what I'll do is I'll just take this and I'll just move it around. It's not going to affect this one. And move it around until I get it in that area here. Turn it around. And now what we want to do is we want to get this down to here or to here. So move it out of the way, bring this slice up, move it in, and then bring it down. Simple as that. Same thing with this. We've got one over here, so we can move this into place so that this is where it should be. Understand this has to come here, so move it out of the way. And then over here you can do if we define this as it's a middle turn, but an R, UI, RI, so that's over here. The center, we look for the yellow piece, which is here, and just put it in. RI, DI, RD. So you've got your little triangle here. Now I do this part, the second version. Now you can put the centers in or you can put the edges in. If we're to focus on the center, we need to get a yellow one up here somewhere. Now here's a yellow one here. Let's just place that. So if you want to put it to the left side here, move it to where this is just above. The middle slice that's just to the right, I'm going to call an R. The one that's just to the left, I'll call an L if I have to use it. So this is going to be RI from the middle. So again, we're moving this down here. So RI, F, L, Fi, R, F, Li, Fi. So that brings this over to here. Well, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this and I'm going to move this down into here. So that's the right-sided version. So to move this down into here, once again, it's that same algorithm, algorithm number 1, which is U, R, UI, RI, UI, FI, U, F. So that's there. Now for the final center, first I've got to place one up here. And this is where I have to start, well, I can shuttle this off to the side here. And actually even shuttle this off to the side. So I'm trying to put this up to here because I'm going based on this perspective. So I can just move this up here. I want to move this back down, so let's take this out of the way and move it back down. Okay, so now this is going to come down here, but to the right side. So that's just the opposite algorithm. Again, we're going to define this as L now, and this is R. As I'm now going to put this center as sort of my front center. So that's going to be L, Fi, Ri, F, Li, Fi, R, F. And you got it there. That's for those of you who like algorithms. So I'm going to keep going. Now on this side, it's orange. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get oranges down. It's got to be in this layer over here. I can just move this down like so. Bring it in. And this is fairly easy to remember. You just take this, move this out, bring this up, move it in, bring it down. Now this is much easier than doing that edge reduction where you had to keep track of everything that you did. Anyway, so that's there. Now we're going to go ahead and put another orange one, random orange one. There's one over here. We'll just move it off to the side and unobtrusively bring it down over to here. So this is going to come down to here, bump it out of the way, bring it up, move it in, bring it down. Okay, so now I have to find the corner here, which is here. I'm putting on all sides on this side, so this has to come out. So I'm just going to move it up, across, and down. So now I'm going to take this and do RID it into position. Now I'm moving fast with this because the techniques are the same that I've shown. Okay, next, why don't we work on a center? Here's an orange center over here. This can fit here or here, it doesn't really matter. But if I want to put it down to here, we'll put it to where this is our F face and this is over to here, just above where it's supposed to be. That's going to be RI, F, L, Fi, R, F, Li, Fi. So that's in. All right, next, might as well put this in while we can. So this will come down to here. UR, UI, RI, UI, FI, UF. We've got this one to go. Gotta get this one up. So let's see how we're gonna do that. Well, let's get it out of the way. And now we're gonna, I guess we can move this slice up, turn it out of the way, and move this slice back down. So that's back down here. Okay. So now this is up where it needs to be. Now we gotta get this down to here. So move this in the front. You want the front center, you want the center in front of you to contain the center area that you want this to come down. So that's going to be L, Fi, Ri, F, Li, Fi, Ri, F. And there it is. So now we've got the blue one here. The blue one to go. Again, I encourage you not to memorize an algorithm with that, just kind of watch where you're going. Just to understand that you're just moving things out of the way and taking them out from that layer. So next we've got this one already in, so we're going to have to put a blue one to the side, which is already here. It's going to come in from this layer, so move it out of the way, bring it up, move it in, bring it down. And now we need a blue triangle, which is going to be in this the up layer over here. This is the top layer, I guess, with the top faces. And just go RI, DI, R, D. So we're good over here. Now for this, same kind of thing. Here's a blue center. We can put that over here. RI, F, L, FI, R, FI, LI, F, I, or something. Anyway, so that's in over there. Now we need to get a blue one over here, which means we need to get it up to this side. What I can do is, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do the algorithm to move both of these. Now what this algorithm was doing is it was taking this edge and moving here, but actually in reality it was moving both of these down, but we didn't care about what was here. So I'm just going to do my edge placing algorithm real quick, really just for the purposes of moving this one up to here. Move it across here, this will come down to here. U, R, UI, RI. Now there's nothing new that I'm doing. If you can solve a 4x4, I'm just doing 4x4 techniques. Center placement, blue. Blue's over here. We've got to find a way to get it up here. Now worst comes to worst, what I would encourage you to do is to take the blue from here and put it up here by doing that layered technique. So which means move it in here, in this layer, take it out of the way, and now move the blue up in this layer. Now just put back everything you just did. So turn it back, move this layer down, turn this back here, move this layer down. So now the blue's up here and you didn't touch any of these. So too, you can listen to the algorithm or you can just pay attention to what I'm doing. But this is going to come down to here. L, FI, RI, F, LI, FI, R, F. And there it is. So you've got these four faces here. Now I have to do these guys. And the good news is it's not nearly as hard as you may think. It's like doing an AI, but with a mod. Now I'm going to pattern what to do with this based on this over here. So we've got all of our our 2x2x2 pieces over here. So just to review real quick, the thing to focus on as you're doing this is start off with your corners, because what you're going to do is you're going to try to make 1x1x2 bars and then 1x2x2 bars and then your 2x2x2 bars. So the first step when doing this is we'll just kind of focus on a corner here. In this case, the corner is 3 colors. This is going to be real easy because the corner has 1 color. But what I'm going to do is take this and match it up to an edge that belongs over here, as you recall. So I'm going to find the orange and yellow one. So orange and yellow, we got one over here. So what you would do is you would take this and you'd move it down so that it can find its way to here. RI, using DI, R, D, RI, DI, R, D. You're using this move to shuffle things around and keep this in 2x2s. So you have that here. Once you have this, you then move this top side by going RI, DI, R, D, RI, DI, R, D. So this is at the top so they can move together. Well, so too with here. Find an edge, just for the sake of demonstration, we'll find a corner rather, and move this corner in right below an edge, like over here where it can belong. Where it can be suitable next to. Now, the difference is this had one specific edge it went to. This is a couple. So I'm going to move this over here. Once I do that, then it's in the same situation. It's the same 1x2, well, 1x1x2. And now I move this top side so that they can all move together. Move together like this or like this. So that's going to be holding it like this and moving this as a face. RI, DI, R, D, RI, DI, R, D. So that keeps these two together just like these two. Now the next step is to place these two of the same color. So as you recall with this one, I had to do a blue and yellow with a yellow. So I go over here and I'd find, now I want to move a yellow into this because that yellow is going to coincide with these two. So I find another yellow anywhere, which is here. Once I have this, I then move this to the bottom to coincide with this. So that's RI, DI, RD, RI, DI, RD. Once I have that, I move this in. Now I've got my 1 by 2 by 2 bar, move this to the top. RIDI, RD, RIDI, RD. So you can see this at the top. So we look at this exactly the same way. So I move this over here, now I want to move these two. So the first thing I do is I look for the edge, but it's easier because I have only one color. And let's say that's this over here. Now, if this weren't where it needs to be, let's say we're over here, but you can see that it's pretty easy to take an edge and move it into a center. So that there's this over here, there's this, so it's pretty easy to do. That's what I had to do with this one, is I had to find a yellow, blue, and move it to a yellow center. Well, that's what I did over here. So now that this is here, or we can say this, we have to figure out which one is going to be able to coincide over here. So why don't we say this one, and we'll RIDI, RD this until this is down over here. So RIDI, RD, RI, DI, RD. Upon doing that, move this into place. So now I have this over here. This is equivalent to this. Once I do that, I move this up to here so that this triangle, which is actually 1 by 2 by 2 bar, can be moved freely as I move this. So RI, DI, RD, RI, DI, RD. So now that we have this up here, we have to put these three in. Just like over here, we had to put in these three. So I have this on the top side, just like this, and now I have to find these. And again, it's much easier with this, because with this guy, I have to find a blue and orange, which is here, and I move this over to see if it's the right one. It is. And then I kept moving this up and down until it coincided with a proper center. So this already has the blue center. I need to put an orange center here. So RIDI, RD, RIDI, RD. Find an orange right over here. So I have this whole edge here. Move it down. DI, RD, RIDI, RD until this is down, and then I just move it right over here. So here's my 2 by 2 by 2 bar. So this is done exactly the same way. I have to find 3 over here. So I start off by this guy. This is my edge, and I put it into, line it up with a center. Turn and turn. So bang, there it is. Now I turn it upside down to line up with this center. So RI, DI, RD, RI, DI, RD, and one more. So with this one, there's very few, if any, actual algorithms. You just have to get very comfortable with RIDI, RDing things into submission, but that's all it takes, as opposed to doing a bunch of complex edge placement and paying attention to which centers are where. Don't have to do any of this. So now I have this all in. So these 3 are going to be moved down to here so it can line up with this. RIDI, RD, RIDI, RD, and do it again. RIDI, RD, RIDI, RD. Okay, so all I've got to do is go bang, and now this is fine. So I've got a 1 by 3 bar. Now I'm not going to refer to this anymore because it's kind of played its purpose, and it might actually serve to confuse in terms of perspective. So let's just focus on these. Start off with a corner. Well, I've got this corner lined up with this, so that's okay. Now I need to fill in these guys. So the edge pieces that I can use, I've got an edge piece here. What I want to do is I want to see if I can match this edge to this center. 1, 2. I can. Now with this here, I'm just going to move it down. RI, di, r, d, ri, di, r, d, and again, ri, di, r, d, and once more. There we go. Okay, so I put this back in, and this green and this green corner and edge moves nicely into here. Now, you're going to find other opportunities around. My suggestion, just focus on what you're doing. Let these come in and out. If you have a little too ADD-like strategy, you're not going to get anything. So now this moves up. Ri, di, r, d, ri, di, r, d, and again, ri, di, r, d, ri, di, r, d. Okay. What I'm going to want to do now is fill this side in, fill these three. So I've got this over here, which is going to try to come into one of these. What I want to do first is let's move this top side. So I'm going to move this over here so I can bring this up to coincide with this. Ri, di, r, d, ri, di, r, d. Okay, so this edge is going to coincide with this center, so I'm going to turn this over here, and there we go. Now what I'm going to do is turn this upside down so that this can coincide with this. So ri, di, r, d, ri, di, r, d. So this edge center pair will coincide with this center. Turn this over here, and I'll move this down so it can correlate with this. So this whole edge center center will correlate with this. Ri, di, r, d, ri, di, r, d. And now this moves into here, so then we have two. Now we're faced with the last two. There's a variety of different conformations that these can have. This one happens to be a pretty simple one, which is going to be pretty simple to get out. So let's see if we can screw this up a little bit more. Okay, this may be a little more indicative of something you might run across, but it's really not going to be too difficult. Remember, you have equivalencies here. You don't have individual pieces, so you're probably going to see a lot of opportunities. But over here you can see that this is already in, so let's see if we can't find another silver. So look for one that within the last two where you have a center and edge, or rather an edge and a corner and an edge already in. If both of them are out, then you can try to move them in, but like these two are here, so you can RID it until these two are up over here. Since we've got this already, we'll focus on the silver. The good news is, with this quasi-AI modded version, if you work on one face, you're going to get the other face. So we'll just focus on one. So we've got this here. What needs to come into over here? We need to find an edge center pair. We've got a couple to choose from here, so that's not going to be too hard. So we'll just go RI, DI, R, D, RI, DI, R, D. Now this will be among the easiest parts, believe it or not, because there's not too much variation. So I'm going to take this, move it into here so that I create the triangle, then RID it until it comes up to here. So RI, DI, R, D, RI, DI, R, D, and once more, RI, DI, R, D, RI, DI, R, D. Okay, so now that this is top side, I can bring these back. Bang. So now I've got to fill these in. So this is going to get a little more complicated. What I want to do is I want to take this and move it into here. But I'm not going to be able to do that with it over here, so I'm going to have to forge it over to here if I can. So we'll do RI, DI, R, D, RI, DI, R, D. Now understand I'm doing this because if I move it here, I can move it into this one here. RI, DI, boom, bang, zoom, pow, splat, crunch. So because I have so many equivalencies, it doesn't matter which one I use. I can use this. I could have used any one of these. This is already in, so let's take this and move it over here. Remember, I don't care about the red side. Now that I have this here, I'm going to move this down so that it can correlate with this. So this is going to come over to here. This edge center pair is going to come over to here, so then this is going to be moved back to here. So Ri, Di, R, D, Ri, Di, R, and D. And this moves back to here, so now we have all of this. Now because we have all of this over here, I'm going to move this down to here to come into here. This is already in. This will come to here at about the time this comes over to here. So we are almost done. Ri, Di, R, D, Ri, Di, R, D. So now everything is set up. We have to coordinate the movement of these. Now again, I went through this kind of fast, and I did provide an algorithm for these, but my suggestion is make sure you learn and study the parity-free 4x4 solve, 4x4 solve without parity, because it's really pattern based on that. If you're just looking at this for the first time, thinking that you're going to solve this, you really need to know, number one, how to solve a 4x4, and number two, how to do it in the parity-free way where you're reducing it to a 2x2. The difference is that after reducing this to a 2x2, you have to solve it as a 2x2. When you reduce this as a 2x2, you're done. So the way that you would coordinate this is turn it once so that this is in, none of the rest are in, and then turn it again. What you're then going to do is you're going to do an adjacent corner swap, because by swapping these, this will be here, this will be here, so that another counterclockwise turn will move the silver one in. But because this blue stripe will be here, this blue, or purple rather, will come into here, and this green is going to be over here to coincide with this. So once again, when you're in this position, go ahead and move it in, then extend it beyond just once, and then do a corner swap so that you can fill in the rest. Now remember where your 2x2 versions are, here and here, so that's going to be 2R, U, 2R, UI, 2R, turn the whole puzzle 90 degrees, then 2R, UI, 2R, U, 2R, do one more turn and you've got it. So there it is, a parity-free solve of a known difficult 4x4 modification, the Trajber's octahedron. But again, zero parities, zero worrying about the absolute configuration of these edges and reducing these edges, even though it's very difficult to do that. No worries about any parities when it comes to center rotation, or any parities when it comes to edges or whatever you might have. So there you have it, a Trajber's octahedron parity-free solve using kind of a layer by layer and quasi-AI method. So find some other 4-layer mods, see how it works. Thanks for watching.